songs we could also hate. You just roll with the punches.
Guys, we're in Toronto today at the Opera House, hanging out with the fellas from the Dawes. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
Now, guys, you guys were founded in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe tell us how the band came together. I know two of you were brothers, but maybe tell us how the rest of the band came.
I was in a band with the bass player, Wiley Gelber, Simon Dawes. Our first and only record came out in 2006, and we were touring it a bunch, or trying to. And then that band started falling apart a little bit. And once we finished our last tour, opening for Incubus was the last Simon Dawes tour, we knew that wasn't gonna keep going. So we got home and kind of tried to hit the ground running. I had a bunch of new songs written, and Griffin was getting near graduating high school. So we started for all of 2007 to 2008. We were kicking around LA venues, and then finally recorded our first record with Jonathan Wilson, which came out officially in 2009, even though we had recorded it the summer before.
Right on. The latest album, We're All Gonna Die, dropped September 2016. You guys just hammered out, I wouldn't say you hammered it, I shouldn't say that. You guys delivered an absolutely incredible performance of your current single. Maybe tell us the story behind that single and the title of it.
With Roll with the Punches, it's we a lot of these songs kind of they shape a record. Some songs are the flagships. They show up first, and they kind of guide you as to how the rest of the music is going to sound. Roll with the Punches showed up fairly late. I think it was one of the last ones we had, and we were still kind of toying around with words and changes and stuff up until the day it was recorded. And I always sometimes those end up being our favorites, the ones that feel like we kind of just went with it in the moment. A song like that happened with our old song Things Happen, which this bridge has this big drum kind of solo almost in it, and that was something that we thought of 2 minutes before it was actually recorded. And a lot of Roll with the Punches, I remember feeling like that as well. One thing that I love about it is how everyone thinks the intro is a guitar riff, and they ask me how I play the guitar riff, but it's actually a keyboard riff that Lee plays.
So when you talked a bit about writing versus performing versus recording. It's a process, right? What do you guys prefer to do the most, or do each of you have your own favorites?
I love writing. I feel like that's why I do it. But I think we all collectively enjoy the stage maybe more than anything. I mean, that's why we like making our tours so weirdly long.
I'd say that being in the studio is really exciting too, just because we don't get to do it nearly as much as anything else. Whenever we get in, it's very charged with energy.
The way that music's made today, is it still the studio side? I talk to bands like the Cadillac 3 and things like that, and they're writing on buses, and they're actually recording a lot of it on the bus. Is that something you guys do as well, or?
Well, I think there's two schools of thought, and we kind of trying to bring in both. I think to put it in arbitrary terms, I think there's sort of a Bob Dylan approach where you learn the song and you kind of all read each other in the room, and you kind of think on your feet in the performance, and nothing's necessarily planned or parted out or arranged or too arranged necessarily. And then there's a Beatles approach, which is very mapped out, and a lot of beautiful riffs and harmonies and counterpoint and arrangement. And we are very much in love with both approaches to music. And I think we like to kind of dip our toes in both of those things. I think for on stage, it is very much of an environment where we're thinking on our feet and we're reacting to each other. We're not simply just hitting our marks and doing what we do every night. We're seeing, letting the crowd tell us what a tempo should be, rather than follow some map or something like that. So and then in the studio, there's specific parts that we like, hearing each time. So, I think it's just a little bit of both.
Now, we're at that time of year right now that it's South by Southwest. You guys tend to do a lot down there, have over the years. Missing it this year, how does it feel to, not be there, or maybe tell us an experience that you had at South by Southwest that was, one of those
most of our times in South by Southwest are marathons, and you know, the work is good. Like, it feels good to connect with the people that we need to connect with, whoever that might be. But I think the last time we were there, it was like something like 17 shows in 17 days. I mean, it's not fun for a band.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun I would imagine for a fan.
Yeah.
To go follow the bands that you love. But for us, it was like, how do we keep our head to the ground? How do we keep our voices in check? And then just get on the other side of it. I think all of us were sick at the end of the last trip there. I mean, again, it's something that we're proud of and something that, like, it's important for a band to do, and we were grateful for the opportunity, but it's not easy.
Yeah, a lot of shows. Working with Blake Mills, Blake was part of the band, if I'm not mistaken, in the early stages, and this album, you worked with Blake again. What was that like to get back together?
It was amazing. I mean, you know, with us not being in the band anymore together, a lot of people just assume, like, oh, they must not be friends or whatever. And the reality is we never stopped loving each other and turning to each other for ideas and inspiration. And this batch of material felt like we were ready to get together with him and really start to take that, to bring that full circle and to close the circuit. I think that it just, either what he's been doing as a producer and what we were doing with this last batch of songs, it just felt like we needed to get back together again. And it felt really good to do so because, you know, we came from the same background, we spoke the same musical language, and it felt really nice.
Yeah. The new music is a little different than the old music, you know, and when I say that, I say it in a good way. You know, obviously as musicians, it's always great to expand your horizons and change things up. Was there a real thought going into this one to make it different, or was it just something that was organic between all of you?
It was just organic. I think the song, like Taylor said, like certain songs came along and it made it very clear what this record was shaping up to be, and it influenced our decision to work with Blake. And, you know, having worked with Blake in the past as a band and individually, we knew what that entailed, and I think we were aware of how different it was going to sound working with Blake, you know, as opposed to Dave Rawlings on the record before that. So I think the songs kind of pointed the direction, and it seemed at the time natural. I mean, obviously, objectively, there's a difference in sound, but it didn't feel like that in the studio. It just seemed like another record that we were making, and we were all excited about.
Yeah, I think that we were chasing the same high that a band does for any record. I
Sure.
think if we had gotten to a point where we thought that worked before for us, let's do it again, I think that would be digging our own grave. I think that, you know, yeah, it might sound different, but ideally they all do, you know, or they all would. I don't know if they do, but they all would.
Yeah.
So for us, the songs get written from the same place. I feel like they exist on a stage next to each other in a very easy way, a digestible way. But yeah, you know, when we're in the studio and we think, well, we played this one song from our first or second record like this, let's make sure to not do that with this one. Gotcha. And that the inevitability with looking at things like that is ending up with a record like We're All Gonna Die, and you know, and may the next one be different from that, and you know, I'm sure that we'll end up with stuff sounding as organic as they have in the past, or not, or whatever. I mean, I think that we let the material tell us where to take it, which has always been most rewarding.
Totally. One more question, guys. Social media. You guys are young guys. Social media, let's say 20 years ago, really didn't exist, you know, to the extent that it does today. How do you guys harness that social media for you guys to get the music out?
I think a lot of people do much better than us. I mean, I think that, you know, for us, it's fun to put clips of live shows or you know, just a little bit of a behind the scenes kind of quality to anything we might say or pictures we might post. But for us, I know this sounds, you know, like a cop out, but we've never known how to apply our artistic mind to anything other than the music. It's always been about the song, it's always been about the instruments, it's always been about the performance. The idea of curating a picture social media platform is something that is hard for us to know how to do effectively. I mean, we do it; it's fun, but you see these other people with it's like they'll have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, and no one necessarily even listens to the music. It's almost this negative image of it, which is cool, but that's just not it's just not who we've been.
But your videos, let's say, I kind of count those into social media. You guys do an extremely good job at those. They're always fun to watch.
Thanks.
You know, like they're very cinematic. You know, like I've spent a week watching them leading up to this. So you guys have done an extremely good job at that. Anyway, thanks guys so much for doing this. Really appreciate you guys coming up to Canada, and good luck the rest of the way. Thanks.
Say ones we could also hate. You just roll with the punches.